In this section, we'll be looking at reflections over the x-axis. What we're going to do is we're going to think of our x-axis as a mirror and look at the reflection. Let's go ahead and draw a picture. Here we have our x-axis. And let's go ahead and let this green graph be our f of x here. If we wanted to go ahead and reflect this graph over the x-axis, then all of the positive y values on our graph are going to become negative, and all the negative y values are going to become positive. The reflection of our green graph over the x-axis is now given by the graph of our red function. We can see this geometrically again by just mirroring our green graph over the x-axis. Algebraically, what we're doing is we're swapping all the y values from negative to positive and positive to negative. Let's go ahead and summarize this algebraic expression on the next page. Again, given a function f of x, to reflect this function over the x-axis, we just multiply it by -1. Let's look at an example. Example 3. Here we want to find an equation for f of x, which is the square root of x, after shifting it up by 4 units, then reflecting our graph over the x-axis. When you apply transformations, you need to be careful of the order of transformations. Let's go ahead and follow the order that this problem gave us. The first thing that we want to do is we want to shift up our graph by 4 units. And then after we've shifted our graph up by 4 units, it's asking us to reflect it over the x-axis. Our starting graph, f of x, is going to be equal to the square root of x. And now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and reflect this over the x-axis. So multiply our new f of x by a -1. Again, I'm going to call this f of x by an abusive notation. So this is going to be equal to a -1 times the square root of x plus 4. Simplifying this, this is a negative square root of x minus 4. And this is the graph of the function that this is the equation of the function of our graph that's been shifted up by 4 units and reflected over the x-axis. Before we move on to our next section, let's go ahead and sketch this graph that we just found. For this problem, again, let's go ahead and graph each transformation step by step. Our original function that we're given in this example is negative square root of x minus 4. If we remove a transformation, the shift down, then this is going to be the negative square root of x. And if we remove the transformation, which is going to be given by the reflection over the x-axis, we just get the square root of x. Now we can go ahead and sketch the graph of our original f of x given in this problem by first sketching out the graph of 1 and 2. So in this first graph, we're just going to be graphing the square root of x. This is given by a function that looks something like this. Then in number 2, we're going to reflect this graph over the x-axis. I'll go ahead and draw this in green. Then finally, for our last graph, we want to shift this down by 4 units. So we're going to take our green graph and we're just going to shift it down by 4 units, and this will look approximately something like this. So the graph of our function is going to look like number 3.